I have to admit, I think that they're right half the time. I am a little bit nuts doing the things that we do.
At 62, Danny Koker isn't just facing the passage of time. He's facing a storm that few fans ever saw coming. Behind the loud engines, leather jackets, and rock and roll image, a much darker story began to unfold. From a painful legal dispute and claims that he was being scammed out of money by Joseph Frontier, to non-stop rumors and controversies surrounding his personal life, everything seemed to pile up at once. Even more shocking were the whispers about him quietly stepping away from the screen that made him famous. So what really happened to Danny Koker? And how did things spiral so far so fast? This is the heartbreaking truth that left fans stunned. Danny Koker's story didn't begin in a classroom under fluorescent lights or with a framed degree on the wall. He never studied mechanics at college. No famous mentor took him under their wing. Everything he knows about engines came from trial and error and countless scraped knuckles. Danny learned the hard way, by tearing machines apart, getting lost in tangled wires and metal, and somehow putting them back together stronger than before. Long before he became the unmistakable face of counting cars, his world was much smaller and far more personal. It started in his family garage, where an 8-year-old boy held a wrench that felt too big for his hands and carried a dream even bigger than himself. While other kids were chasing bicycles down the street, Danny was restoring his first motorcycle. That project wasn't just a pastime. It was a moment of awakening, a quiet spark that would grow into a lifelong obsession, shaping everything that came after. That early passion eventually carried him from a modest garage to the neon glow of Las Vegas, and finally into homes around the world. But cars were only part of who he was becoming. Few fans realized that Danny had another calling long before fame found him. He was raised around television. His family owned Las Vegas's Channel 33, and behind those studio walls, young Danny absorbed the rhythm of cameras, sound, lighting, and performance. Out of that world emerged a strange and unforgettable alter ego. Before hot rods and custom builds, Danny became Count Cool Rider, a caped horror host introducing late-night films, fangs bared and charisma on full display. It wasn't a gimmick. It was a reflection of who he was, a mechanic, a showman, a dreamer. By 2012, the rest of the world finally caught up with Danny Koker's restless spirit. That was the year Counting Cars roared onto the History Channel. And it was never just another show about engines and paint jobs. At its heart, it was a love letter to forgotten machines, to the stories etched into rusted frames, and to the loyalty between Danny and the crew who stood beside him. In a fast-moving world that often discards the old, the show quietly reminded viewers that craftsmanship still mattered. From the very first episode, something felt different. Danny brought an honesty that couldn't be rehearsed. Whether he was pulling a dying classic from a junkyard or creating a custom ride worthy of a rock legend, his passion bled through the screen. Counting Cars ran from 2012 to 2020 and became one of television's most cherished automotive series. People didn't just tune in for the cars, they came back for Danny himself, with his wild hair, dark shades, electric energy, and unapologetic devotion to what he loved. Yet the cameras only showed part of the story. Behind the scenes, Danny was building something far larger. Count's Customs became the heart of his world, a Las Vegas landmark that felt more like a shrine to obsession and hard work than a business. Visitors didn't just see cars. They felt dreams reborn through grease, chrome, and sweat. That vision kept expanding. He opened Count's Vamped Rock Bar and Grill, a venue where roaring engines and loud guitars shared the same soul. Later came Count's tattoo company inside the Rio, another extension of his identity etched in ink and rebellion. Along the way, Danny earned the trust of rock icons like Alice Cooper, Rob Zombie, and Ozzy Osbourne, artists who knew that a car in the right hands could carry a legacy. And music was never a side note. As the frontman of Count's 77, Danny poured the same raw intensity into his songs that he did into Steel and Sound. Long before fame, he had already stood on the stage at Carnegie Hall at just 11 years old. A quiet reminder that performance lived in him long before television ever did. Still, even lives built on passion carry shadows. In recent years, success hasn't shielded Danny from setbacks, especially in business. And like the machines he loves, his story is not one of perfection, but of resilience, wear, and the fight to keep moving forward. Behind the roar of engines and the shine of freshly polished chrome, a quieter storm began to gather. For years, Count's Customs was more than a business. It was the emotional center of Danny Koker's life, a place built on trust, sweat, and belief in doing things the right way. But even the strongest garages can hide unseen fractures, and sometimes they surface when no one expects them to. For Danny, the trouble didn't arrive with flashing lights or headlines. It crept in through contracts, legal filings, and unsettling accusations. What began as what seemed like a routine project slowly turned into a painful controversy. A couple, Jeanette and Paul Hurt, came to Count's Customs with hope and confidence, believing the shop's reputation and the television fame behind it would bring their dream car to life. They entrusted Danny's team with a 1967 Ford Mustang and a $50,000 payment, expecting a full restoration worthy of the brand they admired. According to their complaint, promises were made that the build might even appear on Counting Cars. That expectation later faded. When the couple returned to check on the progress, they claimed they found something far more troubling. No visible work done, a vehicle that didn't match what they had agreed upon, and a car allegedly returned in worse condition than before. Requests for a refund, they said, went unanswered. While the final legal outcome was never clearly revealed to the public, the impact lingered. Accusations alone can leave scars, especially for someone who built his name on passion and credibility. And just as that chapter refused to fully close, another conflict surfaced. This time from within the walls of Count's Customs itself, involving a man named Joseph Frontier. For Danny Koker, the road forward was becoming heavier, reminding him that even legends aren't immune to hard turns and unanswered questions. Joseph Frontier was not just another name on the payroll. He was entrusted with the invisible backbone of Count's Customs, the finances, the records, the quiet responsibilities that keep a dream from collapsing. While Danny Koker poured his energy into cars, cameras, and customers, Frontier was expected to guard the books with care and integrity. Instead, that trust would unravel most painfully. According to legal filings that later surfaced, Frontier was accused of quietly siphoning more than $75,000 from the business. Company funds were allegedly used to cover his personal life, airline tickets, private travel, even a down payment on a luxury Range Rover. These were not clerical mistakes or accounting oversights, but deliberate actions carried out behind closed doors, far from the noise of the garage floor. The damage went far beyond missing money. Count's Customs reportedly faced tax troubles and late payment penalties as financial records fell into disarray. Bills stacked up. Accounts no longer made sense. Danny found himself forced to untangle a financial knot he never created, all while fighting to keep the shop running and his reputation intact. For a man who built everything on passion and credibility, the stress cut deep. What made the wound sting even more was how Frontier had entered Danny's world. He was referred by an outside company connected to the very network that aired Counting Cars. Danny trusted that recommendation, believing it came with professionalism and accountability. When the alleged embezzlement came to light, that trust was shattered. Danny didn't just sever ties. He reportedly pursued legal action against the recruitment firm, claiming crucial details about Frontier's past had never been disclosed. By the time the dust began to settle, Frontier had reportedly left Nevada, complicating any attempt at criminal prosecution. Much of the battle was left to civil court, dragging the ordeal out even longer. To outsiders, it may have looked like another business dispute. To Danny Koker, it was deeply personal, a betrayal that struck at the dream he'd been building since childhood. The aftermath brought legal fees, damage control, and sleepless nights. Still, he kept moving forward, even as new controversies waited just around the corner. For a man celebrated for breathing new life into forgotten metal, it seems almost unfair that controversy ever found Danny Koker at all. He built his reputation turning rust into rolling art, yet fame has a strange habit of dragging shadows behind it. Over the years, whispers began to follow him, rumors that felt completely out of step with the man fans thought they knew. One of the loudest claims suggested Danny had been arrested for possession of illegal substances. It started quietly online, then spread with a life of its own, fueled more by repetition than proof. The reality, however, tells a very different story. No public records have ever supported those accusations. There has never been verified evidence linking Danny to such charges. Still, rumors thrive in silence, and Danny has never been one to explain himself to every headline or comment thread. His private nature, paradoxically, only made the noise louder. On one rare occasion, he finally addressed it, expressing frustration at seeing himself locked up in online gossip every other week. He spoke of his faith, his values, and the life he actually lives, grounded in family, belief, and loyalty to his people. It was a weary moment, reflective rather than defensive, revealing how deeply misinformation can sting. But the questions didn't stop there. Over time, even Counting Cars, the show that made him a household name, came under scrutiny. As with nearly every long-running reality series, some viewers began wondering how real reality truly was. Deals seemed to close too smoothly, builds wrapped up too neatly, conflicts appeared rare, delays almost non-existent. Online discussions grew sharper, with claims that some customers were staged or certain reactions rehearsed. A few fans even dissected episodes frame by frame, searching for proof that not everything happened as shown. Neither the production team nor Danny himself ever fully addressed these claims, leaving a haze of uncertainty behind. For some longtime fans, that silence felt unsettling. And as the spotlight intensified, speculation crept closer to his personal life, territory Danny has always fiercely protected. In the end, his story became not just about cars and success, but about navigating fame's relentless echo, where truth and rumor often blur, and resilience becomes the real test. Danny Koker built his public identity around reviving machines most people had already given up on. On screen, he looked unshakable, confident, driven, endlessly passionate. But away from the garage lights and rolling cameras, his personal life has been far more fragile, shaped by loss, fear, and a relentless cycle of rumors that fame seems to invite. One of the most painful moments came when false reports began spreading online claiming Danny had died. The confusion traced back to an old obituary, one that belonged not to him, but to his father, Danny Koker Sr., a revered gospel musician and composer who had passed away years earlier. His father's death was deeply personal, a quiet heartbreak that shaped Danny's connection to music and faith. When that obituary resurfaced out of context, at the same time, Danny stepped back from public appearances, the internet rushed to the wrong conclusion. Social media did what it often does best: spread panic faster than truth. For Danny and his family, watching the world mourn him while he was very much alive was deeply unsettling. Not long after, more rumors struck even closer to home. His wife, Koker, was involved in a serious car accident. True to their private nature, details were kept minimal. But her absence from public events sparked speculation, which soon spiraled into false claims that she had died. Some reports even confused her with someone else entirely. Condolences poured in. Panic followed. Eventually, Corey confirmed she had survived, choosing to speak only after focusing on recovery, physically and emotionally. By then, the damage had already spread. Behind these rumors was a deeper truth. Danny had been pulling away from the spotlight. Fans noticed his appearance changing, significant weight loss, a more worn expression. Inevitably, darker theories followed, including unverified claims of cancer. No diagnosis was ever confirmed. According to those close to him, the transformation was more likely the result of relentless stress. Running multiple businesses, managing a hit TV show, handling lawsuits, touring with his band, and working marathon hours took a visible toll. Stress, left unchecked, doesn't just exhaust the mind, it reshapes the body. Danny has never been one to publicly explain his pain. Instead, he retreats, works, creates music, and leans on the people he trusts most. Loss, pressure, and years of constant demand have left their mark. And while the rumors continue, one quiet question lingers among fans. Not out of gossip, but concern. After everything he's carried, is Danny Koker truly okay? Even though Danny Koker never publicly responded to the rumors, the questions never stopped. When Counting Cars stopped releasing new episodes in 2020, most fans assumed it was only a temporary pause. Reality shows disappear and return all the time. But weeks turned into months, and months into years, with no announcement, no farewell, and no clear explanation. Slowly, curiosity shifted into concern. Some believed Danny stepped away on his own, choosing peace after decades of relentless work and constant pressure. Others suspected the decision was out of his hands: quiet cancellation, fading ratings, or unseen disagreements behind the scenes. Yet Danny offered no clarification, no final interview, no closing chapter. He simply slipped away from television, leaving an uncomfortable silence where answers should have been. His absence extended beyond the screen. Public appearances became rare, though a few people still spotted him at Count's Customs or around his businesses. Those who did often described him as more reserved, more worn, like someone carrying a heavy story he had no desire to share. And perhaps that silence is true to who Danny has always been, never one to explain himself to the world. Still, for fans who watched him resurrect forgotten machines week after week, his quiet disappearance has felt deeply personal. And so the question lingers, unresolved and heavy with nostalgia. After Counting Cars ended, where did Danny Koker go? And what has he been living through since? So after the fame, the rumors, the silence, and the storms that followed him, where is Danny Koker now? The answer is quieter than many expected. He didn't vanish. He simply stepped away from cameras, headlines, and constant explanation. And in that distance, he kept living. Count's Customs, the place that carried his name and his soul, never shut its doors. Despite lawsuits, internal betrayals, and public scrutiny, the shop in Las Vegas still breathes. Custom builds continue. Tours roll on. Fans still walk through, hoping to spot Danny, or at least stand near the machines that once told his story on television. The heart of his empire still beats, just without the spotlight. Music remains the other constant. Count's vamped rock bar and grill still echoes with guitars and late-night crowds, blending his love for Vegas and rock and roll. And sometimes, when the moment feels right, Danny steps onto the stage himself. Long before reality TV, he was a performer. That never changed. As the frontman of Count 77, he still channels the raw spirit of classic hard rock, playing for audiences who see him as more than a mechanic on screen. Music seems to steady him. It's the one place untouched by rumors or ratings. As for television, there's been no official word, no reboot announcement, no farewell episode. Counting Cars has been silent since 2020, and the network hasn't revealed its future. Fans still hope. Not just out of nostalgia, but because Danny carries decades of knowledge and stories yet to be told. Still, he hasn't rushed back. At 62, Danny Koker appears content choosing distance over noise. He focuses on his businesses, his music, and the people closest to him. He may no longer dominate primetime television, but within car culture, his name still carries weight. He's still building, still creating, just on his own terms. And perhaps that quiet independence, earned through years of pressure and loss, is the legacy that matters most.